Well, the championships, at least in South Dakota, Jason Andera, are now set. Welcome to Varsity Sports Live. It is semifinal Friday. I'm David Brown along with Jandy, and we had some awesome games here on this Friday. We've seen the best of the best in South Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of interesting storylines woven through all the semifinal games. And personally, on a personal note, this is my favorite day of the year. Semifinal Friday. There are all these games going on at the same time. It's just such a fun 4-hour period, and I can't wait to wrap it up and have you guys involved. It's just great.
7 classes in South Dakota, 2 semifinals in each class. So what's that, 7 times 2, 14?
14. Oh,
yeah, we got 14 games to show you. So let's get right to it. South Dakota. Let's start in 11 at AAA. Number 4, Sioux Falls Lincoln versus number 1 and undefeated Sioux Falls Jefferson. Cavs had some early jitters, down 6-0 midway through the first, when they finally make things right on the ground with Nelson Wright, 17 yards.
He's been such a difference maker. You know, last year they didn't have that attack in the running game. This year they definitely do.
4th and goal. Ashley to Wildy to Hutchinson. Back to Ashley, a little Philly special light. Little trickeration a couple days after Halloween. 14-6, Sioux Falls Jefferson after a Lincoln punt. Ashley up top. This guy, he's glad to be back. Griffin Wildy coming on down, 47 yards.
They had the luxury of getting him fully healthy over the last couple of weeks, and he looked the part tonight.
No quit in the Patriots, though. Tate Schaefer rolling right. Check out this throw on the run to Isaac Jarofsky. Jarofsky's crystal, 25 yards, cuts it to 21-13. But Jefferson, it would march right back down the field. This time, it's Ashley to Hutchinson. They've each thrown a touchdown to each other in this first half.
Isn't that crazy?
28-13 Cavs at the break. Second half, Lincoln driving. 3rd and goal from the 7. But Schaefer's pass is picked off by Wildy in the end zone for the touchback. Huge momentum shifting play because on the ensuing drive, Wildy, he's going to find the other end zone. 62 yards down the right sideline.
You know, Griffin Wildy came up before the season to Coach Benedetto and said, I want to play defense. He's already the best offensive player. He makes the pick on defense. He shows what he can do on offense. The guy is unbelievable and a huge difference maker as they pull away in the end of this game.
45-20 is your final. Sioux Falls Jefferson, in its 2nd year of existence, is heading to the Dakota Dome. Afterwards, we caught up with head coach Vince Benedetto about surviving some early jitters, and we also heard from Wildy about being back in the lineup.
We got through it. We had a little bit of adversity. It was good for us, and then really after those first couple drives, we were executing at a pretty high level on offense. Our playmakers made plays tonight, and our offensive line was the question coming into the year, and they had another great game tonight.
The knee was feeling great. I was feeling good, and then coming out to the game, adrenaline really just kicked in, and I didn't really feel it at all. So I'm very glad to be back. To finally come back to who I am and kind of the game that I've been playing, it felt good to get back in the end zone and then celebrate with my team.
So would Jefferson play O'Gorman or would they play Harrisburg? You called this game tonight, Jason, with Curtis Riggs.
Oh, it was a lot of fun seeing Maverick Jones back in the lineup, but it was all defense in the first quarter. Maverick couldn't get things going. He fumbled there. Harrisburg tried to capitalize, couldn't get anything going, but at the first play of the second quarter, you see the first touchdown of the game. That was Bennett Dannenbring getting on the board. Max Carlson comes back on the next drive, scores one of his several running touchdowns, and then the last play of the second quarter, look at that.
Henry Theobald.
Finds Henry Theobald. They're up 14-7 at half. But then Max Carlson decides, you know, I'm not just good enough running and catching it. I'm going to throw a touchdown too. And he throws Titan Tryon open for a touchdown. They tie it up again. But then O'Gorman goes up 21-14 with that touchdown. And then guess who? On special teams, Max Carlson throws a touchdown, runs for a touchdown, and gets a kick return for a touchdown to tie it up 21-21. And from this point on, this was all Harrisburg Tigers in the end of this game. And how ironic is that? After being down 17 2 weeks ago into the fourth quarter, O'Gorman came back and won. They let go of a 17-point lead. In this game, they poured it on with a 21-0 run to end the game in the fourth quarter. And look at Max Carlson, 146 on the ground, 4 touchdowns running. He threw one and he got a kick return touchdown. And I apologize, I talked to both Max Carlson and Gavin Ross at the end of the game, but my audio wasn't working, so apologize for that. But they both said they were very happy
We're going to have to take your word for it, but I assume that will be the case. So it's Harrisburg and Jefferson. They met in the first game of the regular season. They're going to meet at the end of this season. That's your 11 AAA matchup. 11 AA, Yankton versus Pierre. Pierre's already up 7-0. Lincoln Kienholz, this is from his own 10. Let's just watch him work.
How many times has he done that this year, David, where he's crossed both 10-yard lines? I mean, this is remarkable stuff from a quarterback who might be the best to have ever played the position here in the state. That's
a 90-yard touchdown, 14-0 Pierre, but give credit to Yankton. They move down to the 9-yard line. Rugby Riken finds Cody Oswald back from injury, 14-7. That cuts the lead. Later, Kienholz near midfield hits Carson Ness, and he takes it all the way down to the 2-yard line, just shy of the goal line. Kienholz would run it in later, 21-7 Pierre. But again, Yankton fighting back. Riken, Oswald, 15 yards, 21-14 Pierre. This is the first quarter. Second quarter, Kienholz, well, this is what he's mostly known for, 28 yards to Jack Merquan.
You know, in the process, this guy, during the night, set the record for most passing yards in state history, regardless of 9 or 11-man football.
Now, here's a key play. This is less than 30 seconds to go before halftime. Riken throws a pick at the 3-yard line, and then Kienholz up top. Look who's coming down with it. Cade Kaiser, 97 yards.
That was the one, that was the record-setting throw as well. Not only the school record longest throw, but put him over Cody Thompson's record of passing yards for a career. What a phenomenal year for Lincoln Kienholz. Those numbers are unreal. 245 on the ground, 334 through the air.
579 all-purpose yards for Lincoln Kienholz. Unreal. So Pierre going back to the Dome looking for its 6th straight championship. So who would they meet? Is it Aberdeen Central or is it T? We've kind of been anticipating a rematch all season long between Pierre and T, which I lovingly called P-E-A, when you combine the two, but this one was all T. Blake Thompson using his moves, 64-yard touchdown.
Yeah, you know, these are two teams that love to run the ball. Look at that, staring him down.
Staring down Max Jensen, 7-0 Titans.
Quick peek at the camera. That was more than a quick peek, Blake.
Chase Van Tol, 50-yard run. Thompson, Van Tol, there are so many rushing weapons for this Titan offense.
Yeah, Chase Van Tol having an outstanding year, but both these teams love to run the football, but nobody runs the ball like the T Titans. These guys are monsters.
It was Thompson, Van Tol, now it's Thompson again, 28-yard touchdown run. That made it 19-0. So the order goes, we go back to Van Tol. He'll have a 28-yard touchdown of his own. Just the moves, juking inside, outside, between the tackles, down the sidelines. It doesn't matter. T is running all over opponents this season. And so we will end it with another long Blake Thompson touchdown run. Give credit to the Golden Eagles. They rose up halfway through the season, but it would be T's night tonight.
Yeah, coming into the night, Van Tol, 943 yards rushing. Blake Thompson, 770, and they both padded those stats very nicely. They could have two 1,000-yard rushers here. In fact, they're very close to having two 1,000-yard rushers on the season.
44-7 is your final, so we do indeed get the rematch between the top two teams in 11AA, T area and Pierre, next week at the Dakota Dome. Right on down to 11A, Sioux Falls Christian against Del Rapids. This was a tough one for the quarters, but we start off with Braden Pankonen. Touchdown catch here, 6-0 Del Rapids.
He might be the most versatile player in 11A, maybe the best player in 11A. This guy is very much the glue that holds this team together.
The Chargers have elevated themselves over the second half of the season. That's Braden Withy with his first touchdown of the night. That gives the Chargers a 7-6 lead. Then he's going to find the end zone again, and it's 13-6 Sioux Falls Christian.
You know, they're short Johnny Skyberg, a guy who had a lot of highlights on the show last week, and it ended up showing because Del Rapids had all the pieces clicking tonight.
What a pitch and catch there. Camden Justice with the touchdown. That closes the gap to 13-12. Del Rapids still trailing. However, the defense would come up big. Braden Fursdal with the interception, and then they're going to score off the turnover. Once again, it's Pankonen. 20-13, Del Rapids finally takes the lead back from Sioux Falls Christian.
Yeah, this is a turning point in the game, if you ask me. They wore them down at the end of the game without that depth.
Mason Stubbe into the end zone, 28-13 Del Rapids at halftime. In the third quarter, Sioux Falls Christian, they still got some fight in them. Witty, his third touchdown of the game, that cuts it back to an 8-point, one-possession game, 28-20 Del Rapids. but they kept their foot on the gas, did the Warriors. Mason Stubbe stumbling into the end zone, 35-20, and Del Rapids wins it 44-26 over Sioux Falls Christian. A back and forth affair. Credit to the Chargers, but the Warriors, they stay undefeated.
Yeah, and Mason Stubbe went over 1,000 yards on the season, and I believe we caught up with him after the game. Maybe it's the coach. We'll find out.
At least we think we're going to find out.
We'll come back to
it. Let's go to our other 11A matchup. We need to find out who Del Rapids is playing first. Well, actually, this is going to be Winner against McCook Central Montrose. We're going to skip around a little bit here. How about this tip ball and Winner able to get it there? Winner coming in with a huge winning streak, Jandy.
33 games in a row to be exact, and Blake Vollmer, he goes to the air. He went to the air 3 times last week for the touchdown. Finds Riley Oral on that completion for a score. This is a team that likes to throw the ball a little bit once in a while, and Blake Vollmer was getting it done through the air.
Aiden Barfus with the catch there. He would lead her score from the 1-yard line there. That made it 20-0 Winner over McCook Central Montrose. As we go to our final score there in 11B, it would be Winner taking down McCook Central Montrose in this one.
And Aiden Barfus ends up getting 3 rushing touchdowns in the game. And you saw Vollmer now 5 passing touchdowns for Vollmer over the last 2 weeks. That's more than he's had all season. So I think they're putting something on tape for this big matchup that they're going to see at the Dome next week.
40-point victory for the Warriors over the Fighting Cougars. We will go back up. We're going up and down here. Back up to 11A. West Central Beersford, who would face Del Rapids in the 11A championship. Justin Zerpel, 10-yard rushing touchdown. Trojans up 7-0 in the first quarter. Second quarter, Beersford, Tate Van Otterloo pass to Jackson, and he was great last week in their quarterfinal victory. And Jackson Tadlock would finish off the drive, 2-yard rushing touchdown. We are tied at 7.
Yeah, we knew this was going to be a close game, and Beersford, they knew it was going to be a close game as well.
Under 2 minutes left, Jesse Yost, 25-yard rushing touchdown. West Central up 14-7, 2 minutes to go before halftime. Waning seconds of the second quarter, Stenin finds the edge, finds the pylon. Good thing he got in. There was only 6 seconds left in the half, 14 all at the break. So they regroup, it's still 0-0, or at least they tell you it's 0-0. That's what all the coaches say. It's still 0-0. In the third quarter, Justin Zerpel, 6-yard rushing TD.
He is the X factor. Nobody else in the class has a quarterback as versatile and as tough as Justin Zerpel, JZ.
Campbell Fisher, 22-yard field goal. That gave West Central a 10-point cushion, 24-14. Van Otterloo to Zach Bowden, the pitch to Stenin.
We saw that earlier in Canton. That won the game for them in the regular season.
West Central 24, Beersford 20. The comeback falls just short for the Watchdogs. Heck of an effort, though. And Del Rapids and West Central, who did not meet in the regular season, will meet at the Dakota Dome.
Yeah, it's funny, these 2 semifinal games, West Central hadn't played Beersford, and Sioux Falls Christian hadn't played Dells, and now Dells hasn't played West Central. Pretty much everybody else has common opponents on their schedule. But right at the end of the game, we have to mention Justin Zerpel. He took a hit, was out of the game for a while. He was able to finish the game and come back in, so he looks good to go for next week.
So it will be Del Rapids and West Central. So we saw in 11B, Winner advance to the Dome. Who would they face? Hot Springs, the upset-minded Hot Springs, or Elk Point Jefferson? Garrett Merkley. He's going to get the Huskies started here, Jandy. Why do we show kickoffs? Turnover or touchdown?
What do you think, Dave?
I think it's a touchdown. 7-0 Elk Point Jefferson on the opening kickoff of the game.
The key for this Elk Point Jefferson team is they rotate so many players. They do not get tired by the end of the game. They've got 2 big backs in Heiser and in Ben Swatek.
Ben Swatek with the touchdown there to make it 14-0 EPJ. Huskies would continue to pour it on. Noah McDermott to Alex Scarman, taking it in. Nice grab for the touchdown.
Yeah, this Elk Point Jefferson team doesn't make their money on those kind of plays, but they just, again, they're going to throw that on tape that we can do that, Winner.
And McDermott would add to his passing touchdown repertoire, hitting Devin Schmitz for another score, 28-0 Elk Point Jefferson. And I believe they're gonna show you a little bit of love here, Jason.
We love you, Jason.
Jason, I love you guys.
I love you.
Aw, that's so sweet.
I love you guys too. I love you guys too. And you know why I love you? Because You guys put up 47 points on Hot Springs, a team that shut out Roncalli last week. You guys are ready for the challenge to take on the 34-game win streak of winter. I can't wait. Let's go.
Jay Standera, by the way, available for motivational speeches next week leading up to the Dakota Dome. EPJ, you can make the trip down to Elk Point.
Let's go.
Give him a little rah-rah. EPJ and winner next week in the 11B championship in Vermilion. Let's go to 9-man, 9AA, Hamlin Chargers, Wall Eagles. Burke Blasius, he's been fantastic all season long for Wall. You know who else has been good? Cedar Amiot, his main man. He's going to catch this, take it 30 yards, and then Rylan McDonald is going to take the next pass down to the 1 yard line. Efficient drives by Wall. Wall's a team that I think people wanted to see if they could get tested, and they have been the past 2 weeks.
Right, and Hamlin, some other coaches told me Hamlin's the most physical team in 9AA. Well, Wall, they went head-to-head with them. And speaking of Burke Blasius, the guy throws for 80% passing, and he can run too. This is a dynamic weapon.
7-0 Eagles on the sneak there from Blasius. Next possession for the Chargers. Look at that beautiful sunset out in Wall. Tyson Stevenson to Rylan Bawden. Nice bomb. He's going to take it inside the 10-yard line, but a few plays later, the Chargers could not capitalize. Stevenson's pass is picked off by Cedar Amiot. A little defense from the all-offensive guy for Wall.
Yeah, Amiot might not get enough recognition because he doesn't have the gaudy numbers that some people do, but he is one of the best players in the class for sure.
Wall wouldn't necessarily capitalize, though, on the turnover, and then became a little bit of an air assault there. Evan Stormo with this pass on the next series for the Chargers. But then Blasius on the other side. Hamlin could capitalize. He hits Amiot, who gets taken down by the ankle. Oh, just missed. Wall would have to settle for a field goal, make it 10-0 Eagles at the break. But after that field goal, the Chargers, they open the drive of the third quarter, and they take it all the way down the field. Stevenson to Stormo, 70-yard touchdown. Beats the defender, goes down the left sideline. That cuts it to 10-7. But Wall, again, they were challenged by Bonham last week. They were challenged by Hamlin this week. Amiot, he's going to power in for the touchdown here. That makes it 16-7 Wall. They missed the PAT, but just enough offense from the Wall Eagles as they will head to the Dakota Dome with a 26-13 victory.
Huge win for them. They've been to 4 semifinals in the last 6 years. Never made it to the Dome in that time. Now, time to get the job done for the Wall Eagles.
And so who would Wall face in the other 9AA semifinals? 6th-seeded Parkston visiting top-seeded and undefeated Elkton Lake Benton. It's the Trojans that strike first. Coulter Kramer capping an impressive opening drive with his 8-yard touchdown, 8-0 Parkston.
How about that? This Parkston team loves to run the football. They've got 3 different guys that can get the job done.
Same guy this time. Kramer, a grown man run, an angry run. Again, we love the angry run, so does Kyle Brandt. That made it 16-0 Trojans. That was the score at halftime. And the Parkston defense was absolutely nasty tonight. Elks trying to get a little tricky here, but Braden Jervik all over it, dropping Ryan Krogh for a big loss. The Trojans just dominating the line of scrimmage all night long. Here it's Sam Benson that benefits. 43 yards practically untouched to make it 30-0 midway through the third quarter.
This Parkston team should surprise some people last week with Howard. They didn't surprise me this week. I knew they would come out full force going.
The Elks would eventually get on the board. Watch the catch here by Tanner Steib.
He was a probable, maybe doubtful to play, and he was able to get in the game and play and made the fancy footwork.
Just got that right foot in bounds. That spoiled the shutout, but it was nowhere near enough. Parkston rolling on to the Dakota Dome with an impressive 36-8 victory over Elkton Lake Benton. So it will be Parkston taking on Wall in the 9AA championship. Afterwards, we heard from head coach Matt Grave and Caleb Weber.
I think it just speaks a volume on how good 9AA really is across the board, across the state. Very thankful for our schedule, playing our conference. If we didn't play our conference, I don't know if we would be where we are today. I mean, you go back 5, 6, 7 years, we were getting pummeled. But at some point when you're getting beat and you're getting stepped on, you got to try to, dig deep, figure out a way to kind of fight, scratch, claw, find a way to get better. How do we stay healthy? How do we improve year to year? And it's been a slow process, I'll say that. But we got a good group of guys that are hungry. They've watched some upperclassmen get very close last year. I'll be honest, it was heartbreaking. But I think that it left a sour taste in our mouth. To know how close we were, how talented we were. They're a very, very talented team. A couple of their guys got a couple bruises today that kind of slowed them up. And we got good depth, and we were able to kind of rotate and keep people healthy.
Such a surreal feeling. I mean, there's nothing really like it. All year we've had confidence in each other. We all knew our roles, and it's been a great year, and we hope to continue it this weekend. I mean, we're going to celebrate the win, obviously, but we know the real goal, so we're going to lock it in this week, have some hard practices, and hopefully hoist a trophy at the end of it.
Congrats to the Trojans. They will face Wall in 9AA. Moving to 9A, Harding County Bison visiting undefeated Warner. Early on, Monarchs using the ground game as Charlie Delaney finds the end zone for the Warner. Back come the Ranchers, some running of their own. Kelby Het with the pitch to Riley Beal. He finds the left sideline, takes it the distance. Great effort from Harding County, but the Monarchs offense was simply firing on all cylinders. Brody Sauerwein finds Hunter Kramer inside the 5-yard line, and then Kramer would eventually finish it off on the ground for the touchdown for Warner. And as we go to the board, it is Warner with a 63-20 victory over Harding County.
Hunter Kramer played a little more quarterback this week, but yeah, I think they're going to be a really dangerous team come the dome time because they're physical and they can move it through the air and on the ground.
So Warner is in 9A. Who would their opponent be? It's either going to be Gregory or Lyman. Second quarter, Gregory already up 14-6. Rylan Peck to Owen Hansen, 15-yard touchdown. That makes it 21-6 Gorillas.
Yeah, this Gorilla team is dynamic on the offensive side. Dual threat quarterback Rylan Peck sharing the wealth.
Cade Stukel, 60-yard touchdown, 27-6 at halftime. In the third quarter, they continue to pour it on. Peck to Eli Fogel, 39 yards. How interesting that a school with Gregory has a QB named Peck. To kill a Mockingbird? How about to kill a Raider? As Gregory advances over Lyman, it will be the Gorillas in the 9A championship, 41-6. Gregory will take on Warner.
The Gregory team, when they play a complete game, this is how good they are. They just don't always play a complete game, but man, they may have played their best game of the season in the semifinal round.
One class to go. It is 9B. Irene Wakanda and Harriet Selby area. First play from scrimmage. Does the name Brendan Begeman ring a bell?
I think this kid had almost, I don't have the final numbers, but he was right around 300 yards on the ground. He is just ridiculously phenomenal. I have no more adjectives.
65-yard touchdown there. Eagles would punt it on the next series. The Wolverines would score in this Trey Heddick to Trevor Gill pass, catch, fumble, then recovery in the end zone. Still counts.
Yeah, they have to talk about it. Yeah, let's count it.
Exactly.
All right, touchdown.
Touchdown. Yeah, exactly. No need to debate. Wolverines get the ball back after a Heddick defensive interception, and he capitalized with a score here on offense. And HSA is up 24-0 in the first quarter.
Two of their strongest guys, Trey Heddick, he's running the ball, and of course Brendan Begeman when he's running the ball. They're bigger than most linemen. These guys can run people down.
It's 32-0 in the first quarter. Jason Andera.
Yeah.
Eagles, they'd get on the scoreboard here in the second with this Dashel Sporrell to Garrett Libby touchdown strike. So Irene Wakanda, they pulled a couple of upsets, but no match for Harriet Selby. 62-30 is your final.
Yeah, that was the difference, is that Harriet Selby just took them out early. I think that was a key to this game, is for them to establish themselves early on and not allow Irene Wakanda to hang around.
We've seen 13 semifinals. Our last one, DeSmit and Hitchcock-Tulare in the other 9B semifinal. Carter Binger would complete his first 8 passes of the ballgame.
Wowza.
This one right here to TJ Salmon. That takes it all the way down into DeSmit territory, down to the 25-yard line, rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling. And a couple plays later, Binger outside, tiptoes the sidelines. Touchdown makes it 8-0 Pats.
These guys played less than a month ago, and it was a pretty decent game, especially in the first half before Hitchcock-Tulare took off. But the Patriots wanted to establish themselves early, and boy, did they.
Next Pat possession, Binger up the middle, breaking tackles, 70 yards to the house, 16-0 Hitchcock-Tulare.
Yeah, they have got quite a combination, and Binger, he has definitely a dual threat, landing Puffer on the outside. Solomon, TJ Solomon, and Eric Solomon. They've got so many weapons on this team. These guys are going to be a tough matchup for Harriet Selby.
That's how you know it's your night. The tip into the hands of Cole Schrader for another touchdown. 22-0 after the first, 28-0 at the break. And Hitchcock-Tulare would roll over DeSmet. Your final score, 48-0. So it will be Hitchcock-Tulare and Harriet Selby area in 9B.
Got to give a shout out to all of our workers who went across the state to grab all these highlights. It's great to have everything from Wall to Elk Point to Hitchcock-Tulare to Harriet Selby, and then help of Dakota News Now giving us a couple spots too. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. With the help of our friends, able to get all 14 semifinal highlights to you right here on Varsity Sports Live. So that's what's happening in South Dakota. When we come back, the first part of North Dakota semifinals, and as has been the case most of the year in North Dakota, upsets galore. Jody will have the highlights when we return.
You're watching Varsity Sports Live, presented by Farmers Union Insurance. Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live, presented by South Dakota State University.
Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live. David Brown, Jason Andera. Let's head north and visit with Jody Norset. And it's only fitting, Jody, that in 11AA we had lower seeds win. I mean, it's been the story all season long. No one wanted to be number one, and we've seen some teams that we thought were out of it just come alive late in the season.
And I think we've seen it's been parity throughout the year, and how fitting, like you mentioned, now we're going to have an 8 versus a 3 in the Dakota Bowl. Boy, surprise, surprise. It should be a lot of fun once we get to the Fargo Dome next week. But boy, was tonight a lot of fun. Remember, Shanley and Mandan met just a few weeks ago. The Deacons were intercepted on their first 2 possessions, came up short in their second half rally, 28-21. So Shanley in the semifinal round for the second straight year. Ran into the eventual state champs from Cheyenne last season. Now they get Mandan. Mandan trying to reach the Dakota Bowl for the first time ever. Let's take a look at the highlights of this one. Shanley 3-1 all time against Mandan in the playoffs. We open things up. Lincoln Wiseman on the receiving end. He doesn't get a lot of receiving touchdowns, but he gets this one for Max Carlson. Braves ahead early. Next possession, it's Wiseman on the ground. The sweep hits the gas pedal. It's 14-0. Wiseman's 18th rushing touchdown of the season. Back to the Deacons now. It's Michael Rosberg to Sam Oshek. Wiggles his way past the defender, and he gets into the end zone, cuts the deficit to 8. Braves respond again, though. Watch this. Off the tip, Wyatt Peel with a little toe drag swag. Just sneaking his feet in bounds, and it's 21-6 Braves at the half, but it would be a tale of 2 halves. Third quarter now, it's Rosberg to Oshek again. Get out of the way, buddy. We got to see this play. Oshek spinning around, and ooh, the tightrope of the sideline. Sam Oshek, he's been a little bit quiet the last couple weeks. He's had a great year, but boy, he came up big tonight. Still in the third. Michael Rosberg on the run this time. Makes it 21-20. Braves still in front in the fourth. To the fourth, Adam Leininger going to find some pay dirt. They've been looking for that run game, and Adam Leininger has delivered time and time again this season. Makes it 28-21 Shanley. A little later in the fourth, Leininger again. Keep feeding the beast. Number 34, he is a physical specimen. Puts the Deacons ahead 38-27 there, and that would be the final. Shanley is heading to the state championship game. How about that? When Troy Mattern came to Shanley, he made it known he wanted the Deacons to move up to that highest class to compete against the best. They reached the quarterfinals in year 2, semifinals last year, and now the Dakota Bowl. Huge win for the Deacons, who will have a fun bus ride home tonight.
And I'll say it before and I'll say it again. You know, this team won't quit, and that's what we did today. We kept fighting our way back, and I'm so proud of these guys, and it feels electric. Yeah, super special. You know, obviously we'll go on the bus, celebrate this one, and focus on next week. And I'm just so happy we've worked so hard for this, and we're looking forward to it next week.
We learned a lot last time we were here, and probably the biggest thing was, you know, we weren't a no-huddle team until we left that game. We were thinking, geez, why are we spending so much time in the huddle with the playmakers that we have? And credit to our kids. You know, the Dakota Bowl is something they had on their minds right after that Monday we met after the Cheyenne loss last year, and here we are.
So who would they meet? Bismarck Century, a Cinderella? Don't get to say that very often. They started the season 0-5, snuck in as the 8th seed. They were taking on Davies tonight on the road. Davies a 5 seed. How about that? Eagles in search of their first trip to the big game since 2014. Elijah Hayes drops Kyan Barth for the sack. Then Barth comes back, hooking up with Ryan Brynjolfsson for a long gain. Century struck first as Barth hits Gavin Lill from 28 yards out, and the Patriots take a 6-0 lead into the half. In the second half now, Barth is going to somehow escape from this pile. Look at this mass of humans. And just like an old rugby scrum, someone sneaks out, and it happens to be the guy with the ball. 32 yards for Barth, and Century goes up 12-0. Davies trying to put together a comeback here. Mason Clabo has been so good this season through the air and also on the ground, and he's going to get a little bit of chunk of change on the ground. 35 yards, one of the top rushers in the EDC, and he gets the Eagles moving a little bit, but that stingy Patriot defense was not giving up much. Tyler Burst in the end zone. Clabo, Burst picks him off in the end zone. So that is a score taken away. And then the Eagles one last chance on offense, but Clabo hit as he throws. Jackson Walls. Boy, look at the sideline. How pumped are those guys? From 0-5 to driving to Fargo next week once again. How about that? Century heading to the Dakota Bowl for the 6th time in 8 years. This one by far the most improbable, but that just makes it all the more sweet.
We just minimized our mistake and minimized the big plays, and we just persevered on knowing that we had a good team here and then we can make a run.
Well, I tell you what, after that 5th loss that we had, we had I'm not going to say a full team meeting, but we had a lot of concern, and some players just came up and said, we can do this yet, but we've got to do a lot better in certain areas. And I think, ever since that particular day, we've gotten a lot better. And it all starts on the defensive side. Some of those games that we lost, we were just giving up some big plays and just not real indicative of what we've done in the past several years. And to have these kids rally like that, and then offensively, we found just enough to punch the ball in the end zone here tonight. 12 points isn't a lot, but we knew that Davies was going to be pretty stout up front, and their front seven is as good as anybody in the state.
We just barely missed the last year, so all the seniors are excited to get back to the Dome.
How about that? Let's go to the 11A semis, where top-seeded South hosted North, a game these two programs have been waiting for since the turn of the millennium. Spartans and Bruins playing a playoff game for the first time since 2000, which was a 1-point North win, by the way. These players weren't even born yet. But here we go. First quarter, both defenses standing tall. Ethan Welk hit, and he's intercepted by Colby Nissen. And it gives Tyler Coles' team great field position. They take advantage. Brevin Wart to Dwayne Mitchell for the 11-yard score. Great sliding catch. Early second now, North forced to punt, but the Bruins muff it. Spartans are going to recover this one, and turnovers, boy, you always harken on it. So big once it comes to the postseason. But they only get a field goal out of it. Max Watson connects 22 yards. The lead is cut to 7-3. North threatening to take the lead again here before the half, but Welk is hit. Cole Kegba swats down the pass, and Zach Thomason, one of the most remarkable interceptions you'll ever see. It deserves another look. One of the EDC's leading tackler comes up with a big takeaway to end the half. Move ahead to the 4, still 7-3 South, but a 4th and 2 from the 3 for the Spartans. Ethan Welk on the option, keeps it, finds a hole, and he's into the end zone. North's first score gives them a 10-3 lead. Ensuing possession for South, complete pass to George Hansgaard, but the Spartans are able to pop the ball loose. Sam Fritto recovers, and North is back in business here. On the ensuing play, very next play from scrimmage, Peter Hago, you can call him Mr. Touchdown. This is his 23rd rushing touchdown of the season. 29 yards to pay dirt and a 17-3 lead. More great defense to close things out. Adam Jarski bringing the heat. The senior gets the big sack here. And then North gets the ball back, and this one is just icing on the cake for Adam Rowland's team. The handoff to the fullback, Jim Miller, one of the best names in football. Get in there, Jim. And how about Fargo North? They are heading to the Dakota Bowl for the first time since 2000. Ethan Welk with a rushing score. Peter Haugo getting into the end zone. North, they are able to throw a rock from their stadium over to the Fargo Dome. They've been looking at it. They've been wanting to get there, and now they will be there for the first time since 2000. That year, head coach Adam Rowland was a redshirt freshman at UND. So it's been a while for this group.
Not 4th and goal, but it was 4th down, and I just went over. I was like, we're going for it. And he called a good play, and everything worked out perfectly, and I got in there. So
it means everything. It's been like 20 years since we've won
won a championship. I think before we've even gone to there, we were just so excited. It's what this program needed.
This is fantastic. You just look at the excitement over here. The guys, it's just sinking in now, and the work that these guys have put in all year, going to the off season, throughout the season. Tonight, our first playoff game coming from behind. Tonight, coming from behind, and then really coming back and really hammering it home tonight is just fantastic. And then I just look at for the program, this is just huge, and I don't have a whole lot to say right now.
Gotta love that playoff emotion. One more ticket to the Dakota Bowl to tell you about Red River, owners of the longest win streak in 11A, 4 wins in a row, taking on the defending state champs out in Jamestown. Defense showing up early for Red River. Garrett Eichmann with the sack. Late first quarter, still tied at 0, 4th and 9 for the Blue Jays. Peyton Hochhalter to Jackson Walters for a big 25-yard gain. That makes it 1st and goal for the Jays to start the second quarter. But the Rough Riders defense has been playing pretty darn good. Jamestown misses a field goal to keep things at 0. Then the stout Jamestown defense is going to get it right back here. This time Hochhalter takes it himself from 6 yards out. That was that score. Following possession, Riders offense gets going. Gunnar Heichert to Brett Feller. 2 plays later on 3rd and goal, it's Heichert to Logan Oakstead, and the Riders take the lead after the extra point. Red River lost its starting quarterback Pierce Parks in the second quarter of this one, so Heichert, last year's starting quarterback, being flushed into the main role. Time winding down now in the second, 1:40 to go on a 4th and 5 from the 26. Hochhalter with some magic, a dime to Nathaniel Walls. It's 14-7 going into the half. Second half now, Blue Jays keep it rolling. This time it's Hochhalter to his favorite target, Walters, for a 25-yard touchdown to go up 14. And then the nail in the coffin comes late. With 2 minutes left, Jamestown is going to go up 27-7 with Josh Robertson's 2-yard plunge into the end zone, and the Blue Jays are Dakota Bowl bound for a shot at back-to-back state titles. I was able to chat with head coach Bill Nelson via FaceTime just about 5 minutes ago after the 27-13 win to send his Blue Jays back to the Fargo Dome to defend their crown.
Obviously, you have goals all season, and it was just one goal at a time. And these kids are so stinking resilient. You have our 3-point, our Team Scholar Award. You have a host a playoff game. And then obviously you have a big goal of getting back to the Dome, but even though we don't talk about it, we talk about one game at a time. And had some adversity, and these kids just don't shy away. They just keep working, stayed with the game plan, and obviously things turn out in our favor.
And I'm not saying, but I'm saying, if you have a helmet on her set, good things happen. Jamestown, North, Century, Shanley, all making the Dakota Bowl. Congratulations to all 4 of those teams. For Century, that is a remarkable run. 0-5 to playing for the state title against a Shanley team that is pretty darn good. Shanley earlier in the season, Shanley won that game. I think it was just 14-7. 14-7. The Deacons won that game in the regular season. So something to keep an eye on. And then North and Jamestown played some memorable games. Games this year and last year. They met in the postseason as well, with Jamestown, of course, winning that. When we come back, we will break down Saturday's action, 11B and 9B semifinals. Brad Anderson, Chase Miller join us next on Varsity Sports Live.
You're watching Varsity Sports Live, presented by Avera Orthopedics. Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live, presented by Farmers Union Insurance.
4 tickets punched, and now 4 more tickets to Dakota Bowl 30 remain, as those will be scooped up on semifinals Saturday. To get set for the 11B and 9B matinee matchups, I'm joined by 740 The Fan's Brad Anderson and your live events, Chase Miller. Before we get to this week's slate of games, guys, I want to chat briefly about the lone upset that took place on Saturday. That being Central Cass going to Kindred and surprising the top-ranked Vikings in a 14-10 final. Kindred led 10-0 at the break, but Squirrel senior Owen Wiersma gets a rushing touchdown in the third, and then another with 12 seconds remaining to lift the Squirrels to a 14-10 win. Brad, you've covered a lot of these games in the past. Central Cass hadn't beaten Kindred since I think it was 2015. What did they do in the second half to put themselves in the semifinal?
Well, that first drive, they just went out and made a statement drive, and that's a drive, honestly, against in a playoff game against a team that was physical. They hadn't done in years, quite frankly. And Tommy Butler said that afterwards. He says, when we got that score, everything changed. I feel like the momentum changed. You turned Kindred over twice, and Kindred was banged up. Jorgen Swenson was basically one-dimensional. Heinrich was banged up. Just a physical football game, but a well-played football game. But they made plays when they had to. I mean, you go 4th and 17 with your season on the line and complete a pass like they did. You can't do much more than that.
Yeah. Chase, how about you?
Yeah, it was the battle of turnovers, right? Kindred had 3 turnovers in the very first half and forced against Central Cass, but they only come up with 10 points off of 3 squirrels turnovers. Holding to a field goal on the first one was awfully large. And then on the opposite side, Kindred knocking at the door. Cooper Johnson, who made the 4th and a country mile catch, gets the interception in the end zone to get to it, and Central Cass forces 2 Kindred turnovers, but they score 2 touchdowns off of it. That was really the difference maker for me in that game.
Gosh, the turnovers just so huge once you come to this time of year when the games are a little bit tighter in margins. So that leads to these 2 matchups in 11B, with the winners going to the Fargo Dome and Dakota Bowl 30. Central Cass plays at 4-seeded Beulah, while Hillsboro Central Valley, the Burros over there, heading west to take on Velva Drake and Moose Garrison. Central Cass Beulah, another matchup the Squirrels have traditionally struggled with. They've lost 6 in a row to the Miners, including a 35-6 setback in the quarterfinals just 2 years ago. What are the biggest keys for each team in this one, Brad?
Well, I think with Beulah, it's pretty, you got to get Milmer. He's got 2,000 yards on the ground. It's just amazing what they've done with that Miner package, and it's such a, it's so tough to defend because there's so many, you don't know who's going to have the ball, and there's so much multiple movement, and it's so tight, they're so physical. So I think they established the running game, and I think it probably comes down to turnovers again. And I think just sustaining drives. I mean, Central Cass did that. Even a couple of those drives they didn't score, just get a couple of first downs here and there just to sustain some drives. And I go back to that game 2 years ago. They got nothing established offensively. It was a real windy day. They got a turnover early, couldn't take advantage of it, and then Beulah just took off from there.
And if Central Cass wins that game, you're winning 3 games on the road to get to the Dakota Bowl. You earn it, so we'll have to keep a lookout for that against that tough Beulah squad. Chase, we nearly saw Hillsboro Central Valley and Velva Drake and Moose Garrison play in the semis last year, but Bishop Ryan beat the Aggies in triple overtime, if you remember that one. 1 year later, we do get that matchup for the first time ever. We've had a lot of Velva highlights on our show throughout the year. You've probably seen some of them. Sophomore QB Ben Shep has been a great decision maker at quarterback. He does a good job of getting the balls out to his weapons, like senior playmaker Peyton Bodine, who scored 3 times last week. But they also have a lot of seniors on the offensive and defensive line that make them tough. Gabe Lakota, Kyle Sandy and company have been impressive. And they'll need to be at their best taking on this Burros team that is known for its physical brand of football.
Yeah, without question. To the Central Cass Beulah game, and Brad was talking about sustained drives. I think it's very similar to Velva alongside with the Aggies here and the Burros, because you might only get 4 possessions and a half. If one team goes, 2-3 first downs, keeps the ball on the clock, all of a sudden you look up and halfway through the first quarter is done. So HCV, 7 straight year they've made the semifinals. For the Aggies, 5th out of the last 8. They haven't been to a Dakota Bowl since they won it in 2010. So that's how big this is going to be. The Burros are consistent. The Aggies have been there, but this is the hill that they've been unable to climb over. And it's interesting, 2 teams from the East now go out west. We haven't really seen that in this division in quite some times, where it's been the Beast from the East hosting these semifinals.
You're right. 2 great head coaches, too. Larry Sandy, Scott Olson, 2 of the best. And you talked about the recent run of success. Let's transition to 9B, where the top 4 seeds made it through to the semis. All 4 teams still undefeated. We get Cavalier at Lemoore Litchfield Marion, these 2 lids, and a rematch of last year's state championship. And then North Prairie takes on New Salem Almont in the other semi. Hint, hint, you should get your helmet over here. Brad, the Lobos beat Cavalier 42-14 last year in the championship. Brady Lettenmeyer had a great rushing game. Their stingy defense was so good. Outside of the QB, the Lobos returned quite a bit. Cavalier returned some great playmakers too. You'd think of Landon Carter. He had a huge year, over 200 receiving yards a couple of games ago. It's almost as if this game will come down to who makes fewer mistakes than the other team.
I think that's always the case, too. And the one thing I remember from that championship game was Lettenmeyer wasn't really a big factor in the first half, but boy, once they got the lead and established things, they could not stop him. And I think that's probably, that's been the recipe, I think, probably for a lot of the year for the Lobos. And I go back to the game with Maple River. They had a couple of 4th down touchdown passes like that, so you kind of have to respect the passing game a little bit. And Might be a possession game too, quite honestly. I mean, it can number of possessions, especially in 9-man. If you go back to that first half, there wasn't a lot of possessions in that first half of that championship game last year too. It was very low scoring for a while.
And take advantage of your opportunities. The other semifinal features North Prairie against New Salem-Almont. These two met in the semifinals back in 2016. That was when the Holsteins advanced to the Dakota Bowl. They lost to Thompson in that championship. New Salem has a big physical offensive line. Ty Wolding at quarterback, sophomore running back Brock Norton. That's an outstanding duo. They really don't get tested much throughout the season. Grant County Flasher did well against them again in the quarterfinals, but it's going to be tough to slow down that offense. So North Prairie is going to need to score, which they've done. They average 48 points per game. Quarterback Nick Mears is kind of the straw that stirs the drink. 1,600 rushing yards for him, 29 touchdowns, so more of a runner. They have a junior lineman in Nate Tasted that you'll get to see. He's been offered by both UND and NDSU. What interests you about this matchup?
Well, I've heard a lot of people talk about Nate from out west saying, hey, he's just a different animal and he looks like a different dude in 9-man football. So that starts there with the interior play, obviously, against the Holsteins. The Holsteins, they've only had 2 games this year, Jody, that have been decided by 8 points or less. Last week and then against South Border. And North Prairie, it was week 2 against St. John. It's been their closest game, a one-possession game. I think going back to Kindred and Central Cass earlier, Kindred never really had a 4-quarter game where they had to go through 4 12-minute quarters, and then maybe by the end, how do you find yourself? Both of these teams really haven't been tested going into the second half. So if North Prairie gets tested, it's a 1-score game. How can they continue to get to that 48th minute and try to pull off a road quote-unquote upset here against a Holstein team that's been as advertised throughout the season?
Gosh, I love the semifinals. Isn't that just the best? Just to get to the Dakota Bowl is always one of my favorite weekends. And by this time tomorrow, everyone will be talking about the championship matchups, and looking forward to that. Brad and Chase, we appreciate your time each week. Enjoy the games tomorrow, everyone. More Varsity Sports Live is coming up next.
You're watching Varsity Sports Live, presented by South Dakota State University. Welcome back to Varsity Sports Live, presented by Avera Orthopedics.
Welcome back to VSL. David Brown, Jason Andera. Well, the championships, at least in South Dakota, are set. In North Dakota, we got a couple more semifinals to go on Saturday. But how about this? In North Dakota, in 11-man, none of the 1 seeds will be in the championship game. There's still a 1 seed alive in 9-man. Meanwhile, here in South Dakota, all 7 classes, number 1 seeds alive, and they're all undefeated. AAA, Harrisburg and Jefferson, they met week 1. So they meet to start the season, they're going to meet to end the season.
Well, it was 43-13 at that time. This Jefferson team hasn't had a game closer than 17 points all year. Harrisburg, they're the most equipped to do that, and especially with what they rolled out tonight with Max Carlson.
And a healthy Gavin Ross, in essence, will help them in terms of keeping up with that offensive firepower. In AA, it's what we thought it would be. Pierre and T, the rematch. Pierre going for its 6th straight title.
You know what? They beat T-Area 35-30, and that was their closest game of the year. This T-Area team, I mean, they're dangerous. They can run the ball, but once you get to the dome, man, this will be an epic send-off for Lincoln Keynotes.
Plenty of points, especially on that turf down in Vermilion. 11A, West Central Del Rapids, top 2 seeds, did not meet in the regular season. Both of them took care of business tonight, although West Central's had a bit of a tougher road.
These guys have been 1-2 in the rankings pretty much at least the last month and a half, and it's time for them to square off and see who's the best.
In 11B, Elk Point Jefferson against Winter. Winter has that long winning streak going, but Elk Point Jefferson, man, their defense has been solid all year, and now the offense is starting to show even more down the stretch.
Giving up 3.5 points per game, but this Winter team has tested themselves more than they ever have, and they've passed with flying colors. 2 outstanding teams. I hope this is as good as advertised.
In 9AA, we have our lowest seed, the 6 seed Parkson, who only has 1 loss against number 1
by
Wall.
2 points.
Exactly.
Yeah, they lost by 1 game by 2 points, a 2-point conversion earlier this year. And Wall, after 4 tries to get to the Dakota Dome, they finally do it.
In 9A, number 3 Gregory against number 1 Warner. Both of them had blowout wins in the semis.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game. I love the Gorillas, but this Monarchs team, they've got some special players.
Speaking of special players, Brendan Begeman and Harriet Selby against Hitchcock Delaire. Both these teams can score in bunches.
Nobody's been tested here either with one of these 2 teams, so this one, I mean, this could be the best game. Last year, the 9B game went overtime. It might this year as well.
It's going to be a fun championship weekend coming up next weekend in North and South Dakota. We will be back here next Friday with highlights of the first part of South Dakota Championships. For Jody and Jandy, I'm Brownie. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.